Hello everyone, what's up? It's me again, Junkmaster3, and finally it's time for the top 10 movies that I've watched for the first time, the best ones that I watched into 2024. So these are, like I said before, basically films that I've never seen before, and these are the 10 best ones. But before I continue with the top 10 best ones, I'm going to mention three honorable mentions, if you will. So these are pretty much like technically like number 13, 12, 11, but yeah, you can call them like the honorable mentions. So yeah. So at first, at number 13, if you will, we have the film called A Star is Born, which is the original version from 1937. I've not seen any of the other versions, but I think this one was such a good film, so I don't really feel the need to uh, desperately seek out the other ones because this was a really nice and really entertaining film in general and kind of sad as well. So yeah, A Star is Born at number 13, or yeah, first honorable mention. And then at number 12, or honorable mention number 2, we have The Substance, which I think probably people already talked about so much. I don't really feel the need to talk too much about this film in general, but I'll try to get a hold of this movie as soon as possible on DVD or Blu-ray because that's how much I really appreciated this film. Really interesting and unique type of concept, and it really has that David Cronenberg feel to it, even though he wasn't involved in this project at all. So, if you like any of his films, go check this one out. So you probably won't be disappointed. So yeah, there you go. And then at number 11, or honorable mention number 3, we have a war film called City of Life and Death from 2009. Now, this is something that I thought was very interesting because this has to deal with the war, the Second World War, and they kind of show like both parts. So they kind of show both the Chinese point of view and the Japanese point of view. And I thought that was really entertaining and really interesting and really fresh because usually when you watch some horror, like war films in general, it's usually like, oh, this is according to the Americans, and yeah, this is according to the Japanese, and yeah, this is like according to the Russians or whatever. But I thought this was a really nice blend of that, so you kind of like get the point of view from all of these different type of people like throughout the entire film. So I thought that was one of the really great aspects to the film in general. So yeah, City of Life and Death at number 11, or yeah, honorable mention number 3, if you will. That. Now finally we'll get to the top 10. So at number 10 we have In the Heat of the Night from 1967 with Sidney Poitier and Rod Steiger. Now Sidney Poitier, you're really rooting for him in this film. You constantly just want him to stand up for himself and just kick these stupid people's asses. Basically, sorry for my language, but that's basically what you really want to see happening on the film or in the film. So I mean, if you haven't seen this film, I mean, I'm not just kind of like sounds like I'm making out this to be like some sort of action film, but it's more of a drama thriller film. But yeah, really great film, great cinematography, great acting, really interesting characters and storylines. So yeah, In the Heat of the Night, number 10. And number 9, we have a film which I must be honest, I kind of avoided this film for the longest time just because when it was fairly new, I heard so many good things about it, and I know I've probably said this dozens and dozens of times before that usually when a film has a really, really good reputation or like a really big praise and like a hype, I kind of want to stay away from those films for a while because I don't really want to be I don't want to be like disappointed because that's usually the case when so many people talk about the same film. You'll probably be disappointed, and that's the reason why I waited. But it's the film Train to Busan from 1919. What am I talking about? 2016 at number 9. Really interesting. I know many people say it's a zombie film, but I consider this more as a infection film, if you will, because it has a lot of similarities with 28 days later in a way because it's like the infection thing and these people are running around like inside of this train, so they have to move from the train and into another like another train eventually. And I mean there's like really tense music and tense sequences and really great characters and interesting. I mean another thing that which I thought was really good as well was because these characters were really well written as well because it felt very, very realistic in a way because usually you always have at least two or three characters that always think about themselves and don't care anything about other people at all, and then you have some people that are more like, oh, I want to help everyone that I can possibly help. So I thought that was really great, like character development for most of these people as well. So Yeah, Train to Busan at number 9. I'm not really sure if I pronounced that right, like Busan, yeah, whatever. Now at number 8, we have the classic black and white horror film. I'm a, barely even call it a horror film because it's more of a really sad type of like drama film, in my personal opinion. But at number 8, we have Freaks from 1932, Todd Browning's Freaks, and this film was I was just so surprised by this film because I thought it was fascinating and it's really interesting that they actually had people with real disabilities. I don't really want to know what if I you can even call it disability, but you probably get what I mean. Very controversial for its time. It's just too bad that they apparently there was a longer version of this available for a certain time, but I think that version is considered lost today, which is really unfortunate because I would have loved to see the rest of the footage. Uh, and I would say, like I said before, it's more like a character study of these people living like in this on this like carnival area or whatever, and they get really treated horribly by the other people that don't have disabilities. And I was just surprised by some of the acting. I mean, of course, all of them are not really the greatest when it comes to like the acting in general, but I was really surprised by the midget or the dwarf characters. I thought they were really good actors. I don't think they were professional actors or anything like that, but I really liked their performances nonetheless. Yeah, Freaks at number 8. At number 7, we have a. Was this another black and white? Yeah, I think this is another one black and white film. This, I think, is probably now my favorite horror film from this decade, and it's the film called The Incredible Shrinking Man from 1957. Just the way they made this film is just so absolutely amazing. I mean, the whole, like, the build up and everything, and the characters, and I mean, just the old technical aspect of this film, considering when it was made, is just really fascinating and really impressive. And yeah, so it's basically about this guy. If the title doesn't tell you that, it's basically about the poor man that keeps shrinking and just gets worse and worse and worse. And he and his wife really tries to go to the doctor and see what they can do about it, and like if there any cure or anything like that. And yeah, I mean, especially with all the interactions with the animals and stuff, I thought was really like tense and really cool as well. How they made that. So yeah, The Incredible Shrinking Man from 1957 at number 7. And then we have at number 6, we have a made-for-TV film, which I think is very unfortunate that this film probably never had a. I'm not sure. I don't think this one ever had a Blu-ray or like any other like DVD release. I mean, the only release I've seen floating around is that Warner Archive, I believe, collection that released this on DVD. And the I'm going to be honest and say that the transfer isn't really the greatest, but that doesn't take away from the film itself, because the film itself is really entertaining and really cool. It really reminded me of Hider in the House with Gary Busey from the 80s or like early 90s, I believe, if you've ever seen that film. It's like that, but it feels more serious in a way, because just because it's Gary Busey in the walls in that other film, it kind of funny in a certain way. But this one is just like realistic and really sad and really depressing, really well acted. I was just so surprised by the kid actor in this one, Scott Jacoby. I think I've seen him in other films, but I just really recognized him. But he did an amazing job in this one, and his mother in this film is played by, what's her name, Kim Hunter, I believe, who was the one of the apes in the original Planet of the Apes films, and yeah, she did a terrific job as well. Yeah, really tense. I wouldn't. It's sort of like a horror film, but more like a thriller. But I would say it's like a thriller with horror elements to it, if that even makes sense. But yeah, anyway, Bad Ronald at number 6, number 1974. Then let's when we talk about that subject about Planet of the Apes, the next film at number 5 we have Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which I was kind of ashamed of myself that I had not watched before. This was recommended to me by my good friend Matt, aka DVD Review Studios here on YouTube. And yeah, I can only say thank you very much for recommending these films to me, because otherwise I probably would have put them away and just like keep them for another time or whatever and probably forget about them. But this first one, I must say, I mean, in this like trilogy, or if you even call it a trilogy nowadays, because they made that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes as well. But this one, I would say, is the best one out of the newer ones. Great acting. I was just so surprised by James Franco as well, because I think he's sort of like a hit or miss type of actor in general. And I just hate most of those films that he made with Seth Rogen. They're just so obnoxious and so annoying. But he did an amazing job in this one, and most of the cast did an amazing job in general, so I can't really complain about that. Really interesting, like monkey or like ape characters as well. that sort of like develops throughout this entire series, basically. So, but yeah, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, number 5. And number 4, we have, what do you know, a film with Emilio Estevez in it, and it's the film called In the Custody of Strangers from 1982. I do believe this might be one of the very first films he appeared in. I think Text might have come out maybe 1 or 2 years prior to this. I'm not really sure. But this one was always on my radar. I always wanted to watch it. Finally found a VHS copy of this one. I wasn't really sure. I don't. This is yet another film which I think has never been released on DVD or Blu-ray, which is really unfortunate because it's a very very strong drama film. It's almost like more like a courtroom drama in a way, but you also have some of the prison elements to it as well. And I've always had a soft spot for some of those like prison or like jail type of films in general, and like the whole process as to like these people have to go through like these horrible segments of like going into prison and stay there for such a long time. You can kind of see how prison basically either helps out or it's just the most horrible place possible. The later one is the most common one in these type of films. So great acting, great characters, interesting storyline. I mean, it's not very like unique or anything like that. We've seen like these type of films before, but I thought just the acting and the performances were so top notch. So and Emilio Estevez's father in the film is actually played by his real father, Martin Sheen. So that's another really cool thing to this film. So yeah, In the Custody of Strangers, at number 4. Then we have this film. I'm not really sure. This might have been a film that I really appreciated so much because this was, I think, the first film that I watched when I came home from the whole like hospital visit or like my surgery and all that. I think I've already told you about this one before, but so maybe that affected my judgment for like this film, like how much I appreciated it. I'm not really sure, but it's the film called Undercover Angel from 1999. Such a feel good type of family type film. There's some drama and there's a comedy in there as well. I was just so surprised by this young actress in this film. I'm not really sure how old she's supposed to be. Maybe like 7 or something. Um, let's see. I don't remember how old she was supposed to be, but I was just so amazed by her acting because usually when it comes to kid actors, they're like kind of like they can be either really good or they're really really bad. But this actress, I was just so surprised by. I thought her performance was really, really good. The adult actors did an amazing job as well. But I was just so surprised that this young actress had apparently not been in too many other films after this. So that's really a shame. But yeah, Undercover Angel from 1999. Highly recommended if you like feel good type of films in general. So yeah, there you go. And then at number 2, I would say number 2 and number 1 are both really depressing and really sad films, but that's not saying they're bad or anything like that. They're really, really good films because both of these last 2 films I gave 10 out of 10. So at number 2, we have Johnny Got His Gun, the classic anti-war film, if you will, about this poor guy that gets like absolutely obliterated and just put in like almost like a coma state in a way. In this hospital, he has like no legs, no arms, and no sight or anything at all, basically. If you know about Metallica's One, that V music video, that's the bits in that V music videos where they've taken from this film, basically. Or like I think their song was inspired by this film as well, and they were really big fans of this film in general. So they like basically purchased the rights to this film just to make a music video out of it. So that tells you how much those guys really appreciated this film as well. But as for the film itself, really great. I feel like I'm just repeating myself when it comes to these films in general. But I was just the one thing. If I have one negative thing about this entire film to talk about, it's a little bit about the whole Jesus Christ and God aspect to it. It felt like a little bit repetitive, like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is gonna help save you. A little bit too much of that Christianity for me, like shoved into this film to a certain degree. But that's such a minor part of this film that I just don't care too much about in general. Like it doesn't bother me too much in general. So almost a perfect film, if you will, if you can call it that. So yeah, Johnny Got His Gun from 1971, from number 2. And at number 1, we have the film called My Life from 1993 with Michael Keaton and Nicole Kidman. Oh my god, this is a really depressing film. It's sort of like a bittersweet type of film because you kind of know from the get-go this is not going to end well. Or it just has that feel to it. It's basically about Michael Keaton's character. He's realizing he doesn't really have too much time left in his life because he suffers from some sort of cancer. I'm not really sure what specific cancer it was, but it was some sort of cancer. and he got the brilliant idea because his wife is pregnant, and Nicole Kidman, played by Nicole Kidman, and he just realizes, well, maybe I might not even be able to see my son or my daughter like before I pass away. So he comes up with a really brilliant idea to basically like videotape himself, and videotape like Nicole Kidman, and like show him around, show like the audience around, or basically like his what his to be son or daughter, basically like, oh, this is how I am, and this is how I grew up, and you need to think about this in your adult life and whatever. So I thought that was just so heartwarming, but at the same time really 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 sad. Yeah, if you do like drama films in general, if you haven't seen this one, go give it a watch. It's an amazing film in general. I think it's very very underrated in general. So yeah, My Life from 1993 at number one. So there you have it. Those are the top 10, or yeah, top 13 if you count the honorable mentions as well. But yeah, the top 10 best movies that I watched for the first time during 2024. I am going to make the other list as well, where I cover the worst of the worst, like the really really bad films, because I've seen plenty of bad films as well. So yeah, keep your eyes open for that one, and hope you enjoyed this particular video. And yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.